Hello and welcome to the party. Today is Education Monday, and my name's Carrie. Thanks for joining us. We wanted to start today, sort of picking up where we left off the past two Mondays, talking about student rights and everything that's been happening with this new White House and how they treat students. The Peace Party looks to students of all ages and recognizes that the White House wants to eliminate you. The Peace Party believes in the student community and is here to defend your rights today and especially tomorrow. You are relevant. You are important. You are consequential. The White House is sending out masked criminals to kidnap our school staff and students. And they're doing so at our local community schools. This is a violation of every law in existence. They're saying that they can do this based on a 1798 law which says that we must be at war. The United States of America is not at war with anyone. And most certainly, the United States Congress has not declared war on any nation. So therefore, the kidnapping of people, taking people out of schools, taking people off the streets, invading a school and scaring children, scaring students is wrong. It's unconstitutional. It's inhumane. It's contrary to anything that has to do with human rights. And most certainly should not be something the United States of America does. And that is one of the reasons why, when we first created the Peace Party, and our first proposal was the idea of giving students the right to earn the right to register to vote. If a 15, 16, 17-year-old could earn the right to vote and vote, you would not see the right wing attacking students the way they are today. They sort of feel that many who turn 18 will not remember what it was like to be 13, 14, 15, and therefore not exercise their right to vote once they get the right to vote at the age of 18. This is somewhat true, but not necessarily true. But they do know that they can wait it out and do anything they want to, that 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old, because you can't vote. You have no say in the matter whatsoever. Peace Party does not believe in that at all. So one of the things that we think that really could work, and would be most certainly a very straightforward form of protest, but if your teacher, high school teacher, or a college professor, college instructor is ever told that the sign that they have in their classroom saying all students are welcome, all the students then in that class the next day should come in wearing an Elon Musk mask, because clearly the administrators, the people at the top of the school district, have absolutely no respect for you and your existence. Your existence, your very being, your look, your essence, your skin color, everything about you is offensive to them. So if your very being, if your face and everything is so offensive, wear an Elon Musk mask, because that's obviously who they look up to. That's the person, the kind of look that they believe should be accepted, and the only look that should be accepted. And so therefore, wear an Elon Musk mask in class. And then, of course, you know you're going to have the administrators and the principal and everybody get all upset about it. Well, if you can't wear the Elon Musk mask, then that means you're not allowed in class, which means the school should shut down. Period. Because one of the things is that you need in a school is you need students. If you don't have any students, then you'd have no reason to fund it, which means the funding dries up. Nobody makes any money. So, as a protest, that would be one way to go. Now, we suggest it for our high school and college students because you're a little bit older and a little bit more aware of what it is to protest and what the consequences may be. So we're not suggesting this for anybody who is not in high school, because protesting requires a certain sense of sophistication. And to say somebody who's in grade school has learned all the nuances that go with it would not be appropriate. But we do understand that the same thing is happening in grade schools. And again, it is so inappropriate to say to a student that not everyone is welcome here. The right wing, you got to ask yourself sometimes. And then speaking of the right wing, we're going to go right back and end it today with the proposed changes to Florida child labor laws. Because again, we are completely and totally opposed to this idea. Because as we were talking about last week, they want to eliminate working time restrictions. So meaning, so you could work 12 hours in a day and be a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old. A 12-hour shift without any breaks, without a lunch, without a meal break or anything like that, without being allowed to use the restroom, is inhumane. But that's what it seems, what they're suggesting here, is that they could work you for 12, 14, 16 hours without a break, without any meals, without allowing you to get a drink of water. I mean, there have been states, Texas, Florida, for example, where they got all upset about people working construction, laying tar down on the road, and wanting some water just to keep themselves hydrated. How ridiculous to say somebody can't have some water to keep themselves hydrated. But that's where the right wing has gone with everything today. They've gone way off kilter with what should be considered normal. There's no empathy, there's no concern for people anymore, and it's trickling down and affecting our students in a way that it has never affected our students before in history. There's such a negativity that's floating around that just never ever existed. Even when we did have child labor, and it was okay for a 12-year-old or 10-year-old to be working in a coal mine, in some weird way, they were treated better then than they are now. Can you imagine thinking in 1880, 1910, students and children were treated better than they are today? We're moving backwards, and we're supposed to be in the 21st century moving forward. And the Peace Party is all about going forward. So these things have got to change, and there's got to be a proposal that makes a change. Because they have down here 14-year-olds can work overnight. Well, there's such a thing as a curfew law. Now, I was never a big fan of curfew laws because I always found them to be upheld and enforced depending on who the officer was, the situation, what have you. They make sense and they don't make sense, but we're not going to argue the fact that there are curfew laws, because that's the whole point. There's a curfew law, so then how can you work overnight? If you're under the age of 18, how can you work overnight if there's curfew laws? You're violating curfew. In corporate America, the governor of Florida is conspiring to actually violate this law. Curfew law. Makes no sense. And then the other thing, too, is that they say you can work overnight on school days. Well, that's part of the whole idea of curfew laws, is to make sure the kids are home, students are home sleeping, so that when morning comes, they're well rested and sharp and ready for school the next day. It makes no sense to say teens can work overnight on school days. Makes no sense. And then, as we talked about last week, this is the other thing that gets us. They also said it will end guaranteed meal breaks for people at the ages of 16 and 17. And as we said last week, it doesn't make any sense. So you could be a 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old worker. You'll get a meal break. Then suddenly at age 16 and 17, no meal breaks for you. And then once again, you turn 18 on up, you'll get meal breaks. Let that sink in. People in charge often just don't think things through. And that's why with the Peace Party, we keep saying in September, we're going to have a meeting. We're going to get together so that we can finalize these proposals, and nothing is released to the public without it having been thought out in committee, debated. And I have a feeling we're going to see some incredibly intense debates. But that's what democracy's about. It's about passion, and it's about believing something, and it's about going forward, but also doing so in a manner that makes sense and is a bit respectful, so that debate may occur, but that does not mean that we have to be rude to each other, condescending to one another. No, you can debate and do so in an intellectual manner, bringing up the points, backing up your points, and then being quiet and letting somebody else speak, and coming together and understanding that, hey, there's common ground because we're all here for the same reason in the first place. So we're looking at so much of what's been happening, and we ask ourselves, does this make any sense? Does it make any sense? Well, just understand that you are important. You are consequential. We hope and want to see you happy. And what we're working on over time is to work toward that objective. So we apologize on behalf of everybody my age and thereabouts for everything that we're putting you through. It's totally unfair. We apologize. But we also know that we have to go forward. We have to have plans, and we have to understand sometimes what the issue is, but then what is the solution? One of the solutions we definitely see is the right to earn the right to register to vote for people under the age of 18. It gives hope. It also inspires an intellectual conversation and cannot hurt with literacy levels. Cannot hurt our scholastic scores. Studying history obviously is not a mathematics type discipline, but not everything's about math and science. Just because it's not an algebraic equation does not mean that it's not important to know and to learn. And reading is a good thing. It's how you also learn algebra, because you got to read. So, we're going to let you go with that. But we always have to ask that question that still hasn't been answered. What's a reasonable profit for a landlord to make on a rental unit, any apartment unit, that costs a total of $1,000 a month to operate? We're looking for the answer, and we'll talk to you soon when we get it. But until then, we'll see you tomorrow, and thank you much.